Hey, it's PMR. I know I've been around in a while. I haven't done a video in quite a while. I've had a kind of a shakeup in my life where I found out I was pre-diabetic. I've been working at like diet and changing kind of what I'm eating and walking a lot, and it's going really well. Some of the meds they've got out there are really fantastic, and anyway, that's my excuse. So this is a Stump the Chump episode where I just answer random questions from my YouTube channel that I pick out. There's a lot of questions and comments and stuff, but I really like kind of dialoguing with my subscribers, so that's what we're about to do. So, the first one is, hi, what's your opinion of the 300 GM compared to the new Sigma 300 to 600 zoom? The 300 to 600 Sigma is an awesome lens, but not if you shoot Sony. There's just too many problems with it if you are a Sony shooter. If you're on the Panasonic side of things, it's great. But number one, you lose your 20 frames a second or 30 frames a second or your 120 frames a second. From the A9 series and the A1 series, you get relegated to 9 to 10 frames per second. So right there, that's a deal breaker. Number two, this is something that like YouTubers do not talk about because I guess they don't know any better, or they don't really use the gear to shoot action. But you cannot autofocus while you zoom. You have to do one or the other. So if you're actively autofocusing with the 3 to 6 Sigma, and then you start zooming the lens stops autofocusing, or at least it hiccups really badly, and then it has to reacquire when you stop zooming. It has to kind of really grab again. And remember, you're at 10 frames a second or less, 8 to 10, usually 9 to 10 frames. So I know Sigma says it's 15, but I think it's closer to 10. You have a real problem with that. It's a bummer. Also, you don't get to use a teleconverter ever on the Sony platform. So the Sony teleconverter will not work with the 3 to 600 Sigma lens. Sigma doesn't make a teleconverter that will work with Sony, so you're kind of screwed there. So the lack of frames per second, the lack of the ability for the lens to focus and zoom at the same time, and the lack of a teleconverter all add up to, it's just not a very good deal. And it's just not a great deal for Sony shooters. Now, the 300-2.8 GM with the 1.4 and the 2X will give you a 600-5.6. It'll give you a 420 f4. It'll give you the 300 prime. So you're a full stop faster at the low end of the zoom on the Sigma. But most importantly, you can zoom. Most importantly, you can autofocus anytime you want to with any combination, with teleconverter, without, whatever. So the 300-2.8 is, and it's so light. That's the other thing that is real problematic about that lens. It's heavy. It is a very heavy lens. Now, it's all relative. I looked it up when it first came out. I was shocked, like everybody else was, when they released that lens. And I went back and I realized that that lens weighs the same as the original 500 f4L Canon lens. Now, that was a lightweight lens back then because of the 6 and especially the 400-2.8's weight. But it's a heavy lens now. If you only shoot birds on a nest and you never need to be more than 600 millimeter, it'd be a good choice for a lot of people. But for me, I would rather have a 400-2.8 with a 1.4, or especially the 300 with the 2 converters. Okay, what lens would be recommended by you to shoot sports like basketball, handball, and futsal? I don't know what futsal is, but anyway, these courts are almost the same size. 50 to 150 f2, a 300-2.8, or a 400-2.8. First of all, a 400-2.8 is going to be way long for all the stuff you're talking about except for shooting coaches. And I've never seen a coach inside a handball court, but in fact, I've never shot handball. That's on me. I should go out and shoot handball. I would really hunt hard for one of those glass-sided handball courts because I'm not really sure how else you do it. You can't really be in there with them. It'd be really unsafe. But anyway, back to your question. The 50 to 150 f2 would be ideal. If you can only have one lens to shoot basketball, you can pick them up from beyond half court, you know, coming down, and then anything they do in front of you is going to be great with a 50 or anything in between. So I think the 50 to 150 F2 owns basketball. I think the same would be for handball, especially if you had to shoot from above. Sometimes the only place to be is above looking down, and the 50 to 150 would be really cool for that too. A guy named Hiker Trash on YouTube says, "Too bad for you." He's talking about my divorce from the 400-2.8 video that I did a while back. "I'm getting married to the 400 GM next month. I've been watching all your previous videos on the topic of these lenses. You said something that really stuck with me. You said that for every 10 of these lenses made, 9 of them are 400 and only 1 is a 600. Is that true? There are so many used 400 GMs in the market and little to none 600 GMs in the market. There is only a $1,000 difference between the two at MSRP, but a $3,000 difference on the used market. So why is there such a big spread between the 400 and the 600 GMs on the used market?" And you already answered your own question in your question, and that is supply and demand. There are so fewer 600s because very few people matriculate all the way to that lens. And probably fewer will still now because of the 400 to 800 G lens. That thing for birders is like kind of the lights out deal, even though it's, you know, much slower. But yeah, there are just so few 6s out there. The supply and demand basically demands that the 600 would be worth more money because there's scarcity of them, while the 400s are becoming more and more popular on the used market, especially because of the impact of the 300-2.8 and I think the 400 to 800 and the 2 to 6 and all that stuff. So really good question though. Dave White asks, "I got my first A9 Mark I used in 2023. I just added a second one in 25. I shoot motocross at least twice a week. These are perfect cameras for outdoors. For motocross, I have only 3 lenses needed, 85-1.8 in the pits and portrait work, some close work for corners, a 7200 and a 2 to 6 for longer reach to different areas of the track when needed." Dave, you know, like I think all motocross photographers should be sponsored by like Tide or, you know, Clorox or something, because you guys get covered in it. I've done that a couple times, and it's a rush, but man, you really get covered in mud and dirt. I totally agree. I have been preaching the value and the continued relevancy of the A9 Classic, as someone call it nowadays. If you're outside in sunlight, it is a fantastic camera. It's great. The only issue is where you get into lights that are flickering or, you know, banding and stuff like that. That can be a real problem with the A9. But if you're shooting only outdoors and on Saturday afternoons, more power to you, brother. Bobo Media, or maybe it's Bob O Media, I'm not sure. "Dumb question, but do I need a lens hood? I don't like to shoot with one. Are you stating it helps reduce vignetting?" Lens hoods actually, if you use the wrong one, would increase vignetting, not reduce it, but they do reduce flare. And flare is where you're shooting into a pointed light source like a sun setting or street lights sometimes if you're out on it, you know, and there's direct light that are hitting the inside of the lens. The light can come into the lens and bounce around in between the individual optics that build up the lens elements. And they cause bad reflections that are called flare. And so, yes, you should always use a lens shade, but not for that reason, although that's a good one. You should use it because if you drop your lens or you go through a glass door and you hit by accident, you know, if the camera's on a strap or whatever, the lens shade is going to bend or break instead of your front element. So I recommend always using a lens shade and always attached in the correct way. So many people, these wedding photographers everywhere, all these YouTubers, I see these people, like the lens shade's attached and it's backwards. It makes no sense at all, especially if you're like doing lighting where there might be some flare coming in. So, but yeah, it won't have anything to do with vignetting, but it will have something to do with lens flare and reducing lens flare. David Stella says, "Were the black and white pictures taken using the one from the creative look inside the camera, or were they edited in post? They look great." Thank you. You know, those of us that are old enough to remember fondly, you know, black and white darkroom work, and especially working with the Ilford system of graded papers, or multi-grade papers. We love rich black and white. We love to have great tonality across the entire photograph, from the darkest dark to the lightest light. And you can kind of do either one. I think the rich tone black and white setting in the Sony cameras is really cool. It makes a multiple of shots and then builds them all back together. It's kind of a Salgado look. If you've heard of Sebastião Salgado, he just died a few months back, but he made the most amazing black and white photographs, just incredible. But yeah, Lightroom is where I'm back to. Capture One is also great. I think Capture One gives you a little bit more control even when you're doing black and white conversions from RGB. But the new Lightroom is really, really good too. And so I honestly can't remember. He's talking about a video that I did shooting in New York City with the A7C Mark II, doing street photography. And especially I think he's talking about a series I did up on the High Line in New York City. So thanks for the question. It's really cool. I appreciate the comment, but like what I would tell you to do is make sure that you nudge the black a little bit when you're doing these conversions. Don't leave it because it'll just look like mush. So Stephen Waldstein says, I'm very happy with my A7C II, but I admit I can't decide which lens I like on it most. I own the 42-5G, but I also have the Zeiss Batis 40f2. I have the 35f2 in Sigma, and as well as the 65f2 and the FE 24-50 2.8G. I use all these on it, but of course I can only take one with me and often have a hard time deciding which one to bring. I leave the GM primes at home as well. For landscape, I switch over the A7CR. Thank you for sharing and take care. Stephen, I have the same problem, man. I mean, I don't have all the lenses you do, but I have all the compact primes. I have the 24-50. I have the 20-70, which is great for a walk around in New York City. I get frustrated, and whatever I take, I take it and I go, oh, I wish I had brought that. The 35-1.8 is another one that I really like to do street photography with. But yeah, I guess I'm just going to say I commiserate with you. I have a tough time figuring it out too. And sometimes it depends on my mood, how long I'm going to be out. If I'm only be out for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I'm going to walk in New York or Chicago, probably I'll go for the 20-70 or the 24-50. But if it's all day, I'll probably grab that 42.5 every time. So Lauren says, cool. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about the FX2. I also love my A7C II, and as with so many of your viewpoints, they align with mine, so I can't wait to hear your opinion. I can't wait to get my hands on the FX2. I still haven't yet, and it's bumming me out. I've been haranguing the people at Sony, marketing people. I've been heavily hammering on everybody, and I haven't been able to get one, but one is coming a week from today. So next Monday, I'm going to actually have one for 4 days. And I've already been scheduling shoots to shoot with it. And my intention is to do still photography as well as video. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the FX2 is a true hybrid camera in a way that really no other Sony could be called hybrid, I think, not to this level. And what they've done is they've taken an A7 IV 33 megapixel chip sensor, and they put it inside the body of an FX3, which is a video camera. It's got 6 1/4-20 taps all the way around it. It's made to be kind of rigged up. A lot of the video people have been trashing this camera because you can't do 60p without a crop or 120 at all. But I think the reality for most of us that are shooting video is that we're at 24p almost all the time, or on speed as it's called. And there's no crop between 24p and 30p. And so I think this camera is going to be a great camera for doing interviews with real audio and lighting and stuff like that. But I'm also thinking that because the EVF swivels, okay, like instead of just being eye level like this, you can actually move it like this up to 90 degrees, and you can look down in the camera. I love doing that with a Hasselblad way back in the day. I'm so looking forward to be able to do it again with the FX2. And the quality of the EVF is better than the A7C Mark II. It's the same as the A7 IV, but it's better than the A7C Mark II. So even though the FX2 is going to weigh more than my A7C Mark II, I do enough video where I think it's going to be really justifiable to switch between it. And so I never thought I'd say this, but I think the days are numbered for me to own the A7C Mark II. I think the FX2 is going to replace it, but because I haven't shot it yet, I can't really say that for sure. But I love that sensor. That sensor is so good, the 33 megapixel. It's, you know, to me, I look at it like in the old days we looked at a 5D Mark II. It's a big, huge sensor, and it's got lots and lots of go juice. I shoot a lot of landscapes with it out west. It's the bike I travel. You know, I travel with it in my motorcycle, which I do a lot. So, Lauren, stay tuned, and there definitely will be probably multiple videos on the FX2 after I've had some time to put it through its paces. I'm really looking forward to shooting that camera, though. I can't tell you how excited I am because it's such a different beast than anything Sony's made in the past. So stay tuned. And also, you know, like, I am not just out here as my own mouthpiece just to talk and tell you the way things are. I'm not a dictator. I'd most like to be in dialogue with you as my subscribers. I appreciate you guys. So if you have questions or comments or you disagree, that's okay too. You know, if you're going to disagree, though, be funny about it. That's always helpful. You know what I mean? But put them in the comments below. Just feel free to just jump in there and tell me if you think I'm crazy or that you agree or whatever you want. But also, for sure, if you have questions about the Sony system, I'm really here to answer them for you. I love the system. I use almost all of it. So hit me up. Thanks so much for watching.